hang with me, come play with me in Stacey J's studio today. Subscribe, like, and share. Let me know you care. Let me know you care.
Hi, I'm Stacey J and this is my studio, and I would like to take you with me on a sew along that I have used I'm killing two birds with one stone here. Not only is it one of my make nines, it's also one of the fabrics that has done my fabric wheel of fate. Now, if you haven't seen any of my fabric wheel of fates or anybody else's, jump back into my playlist and you'll find fabric wheel of fate actual playlist, so you can jump in and see how I get to pick these fabrics. So if you have followed me in the past, you would know that I am a lover of stylark. I do love a good stylark pattern, don't love a bad stylark pattern. And the only times I've been bad is when they actually don't suit me and I wanted to make it just to prove they didn't suit me because it looked really good on the drawing. So I am a stylark lover. So I currently have the LB shirt on. It's one of my faves. Such an easy put together shirt with a nice little double yoke, and it's also got a nice little pleat down the back. Sits nice on me. Now, if you haven't watched me before, I have a full bust that is much different to my upper bust. So I am always doing a full bust adjustment for most of my clothing. Even if there's enough ease in the actual top itself, if I don't add a full bust adjustment to it, it is still taking fabric from another location, which changes the fall of the garment. So I always add a full bust, even though the ease is fandiddly-tastic. So what am I making today? Today I'm making something I was going to make last year, and I was going to make it with precious fabric and for the Precious Fabric Challenge, but I decided I didn't want to cut into it. Actually, the real reason is I'd lost a bit of weight and my size fell outside of that actual sizing category that I had purchased. So I purchased the new sizing category, got it printed up, and by then it was New Year, because that's how fast I move. Saying that, I wanted to start this at 9 o'clock and something else come up. You don't you hate it when work comes into it? If you don't know me, I sew for a living. This is my workplace. This is my studio. This is my oasis. This is my happy place. So what am I going to make? I'm going to make the Harriet woven jacket. It is a lovely wee jacket. It's very much, I want to say Jackie O, but that is the stylark pattern. Now, I just want to say to you, I am not endorsed by stylark. I am not doing this sew along for a fee. I'm doing this sew along because, well, I like to talk and I want to sew it along with you. I will be putting up chapters so that you can go to the chapter if you need to. I have done alterations. I've printed out a size 16, or sorry, I haven't printed out. I've traced, I'm a tracer. I've traced out a size 16. I have done a full bust adjustment to the front panel and also to the lining panel. What goes up must go up with something else. So equal and opposite and all that sort of stuff. I've also done a forward tip shoulder. My shoulder tips forward here. So I have moved my shoulder 1 centimeter forward on my lining and my front and back. I do have on both of these two adjustments, full bust adjustment and the shoulder forward, I do have a little tutorial on how I do those. The other thing I did is whack out a little bit for my sway back. I have no bottom, so it's not a booty, it's a sway. Had a sway back my whole life, did gymnastics, you know, the whole arch up, so I do have that little pit inside my lower back, so I have taken that out. Then again, I believe I have something on there for sway backs as well. So very good. I've never made it. It's a very good, from what I can see, pattern for somebody who's never done a line jacket before, because the lining is cut separately or differently. It is giving you the food for thought of a lot of people go, well, do you shorten the sleeves when you attach it to the sleeves so the make it doesn't bag out too much? Do you do this? Do you do that? This actually will answer all those questions to that. I have sewn for many, many years, and I, many years, like more years than more than half of what I've been alive. Lots out there that done more than me, but that's how long I've been sewing. So you'll find that all the lining is done on different pattern pieces. So that is really, really helpful, especially for a beginner. Okay, so there's your line drawings. Gotta make sure you can see them, eh? Okay, and yep, the Harriet. Now I cut out a standard size 16, did my full bust adjustment, adding 2 centimeters to each side of my bust adjustment, adding 4 centimeters to the full amount of my full bust. Now, I am, see that, going to do the chapters. I have my overlocked, because it's lined when overlocking it, I've got my yoke and it's already been fused. Okay, so my fused pieces are my back yoke, my collar, my under collar, and my front facing. Sorry, the back wasn't the back yoke, it was the back facing. I have got my 3, look, this is how little pieces there are. 3 pieces of lining and 3, funnily enough, pieces of my actual pattern. Now this was the fabric that I spun for the Fabric Wheel of Fate. It's got a really nice little stretch in it, so does my lining. That's I just didn't think I needed to do something with the stretch. I've wanted to make this jacket for a while. I think it's a nice decent weight for a jacket. Here in Wellington, New Zealand, that don't know and tell by my accent, which is a little bit messed up, that I'm in New Zealand. Okay, so I am going to start, and we are going to start at the very beginning. We're going to start with the collar. We're going to sew our 2 undercollars together in the center. Okay, now with style arc, the seam allowance is 1 centimeter until you get to places like collars and facings. So make sure you read your instructions. They usually have a little mark here. See that mark that comes in? So that's telling me my seam allowance is here. That's 1 centimeter down there. However, if you go to the edge here, where you want to sew around the top, it's only 5 millimeters. I can't think of what that is for you guys that talk inches and quarter inches and that. So we are going to go over to the machine. We're going to sew these right sides together. I'm just going to prepare it. It would seem I've already put them right sides together. There are 2 notches in there, so make sure you mark all your notches. Notches are there for a reason. Put your pin in your first notch so you know that it's lined up. Another notch. This is also nice that this also shows you haven't got the pieces upside down or around the wrong way. That's what notches are there for, to indicate. So you do this, of course, after you've done your interfacing on it, or you've fused, depends where you're from. So I'm going to sew down there, and then I'm going to come back. I have now sewn that together. I have opened up the seam. It's nice and flat. Make sure it is nice and flat. You really want that to sit nice and flat on your collar. Then you get your second collar, the upper collar, which is this one here. Make sure your notches are in them because that goes onto the neck. Okay, and you'll put right sides together. Super easy on this because it is a got the fusing on it. So just pin it up in the corners. You're going to go around. You're going to sew around this all the way up there, all the way around the top, and then down to the other side. And you are then going to, don't forget, you're going to do this in 5 millimeters. I'm going to go get my conversion. Okay, it's 1/4 inch. I should learn those. I should really learn them. My plate doesn't even have it in inches. I've got it changed to centimetres, being a metric girl in a metric world that we live in this part of the world. So we'll just pin that on there, nice and flat. Now we are going to move to the sewing machine, so up 1/4 inch, 5mm, all the way around and back down, and then we're going to snip it, but I'll be back for that. Okay, so sewing all the way around. Now we're going to take the corners, we're going to snip off the corners. Put your fingernail there if you want to safety it. Of course, you don't want to slice into where you have done the actual. I'm just going to put 2 glasses on because that's what I do when it comes to black. Just want to make sure I don't snip my threads. There it is, there. I'll double check the other side. Perfect. So we're going to turn it in the right way. Once we've turned it in the right way, we're going to understitch the top of the collar. Okay, just all the way we can. You know which is the underside. It's the one with the seam down the center, that one. Just get this out. And the sharper they are, the nicer they sit. Sharper they are, the nicer they sit. Sharper they are, the nicer they look. Not sit. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to run an understitch. So an understitch, and you'll make sure that the seam is actually going to the side the understitch is going to. So I'll have it this way on my machine. I'll pull it back a little bit like that. I'll start there, and I'll just go really, really close. Okay, so it's an understitch. It's not a top stitch. It is not a ditch stitch. And that will hold that seam that way. And you can go and actually press it first, which is what I'll do. And I'll press it to the side I want it to be. Okay. So I've got here a clapper. My dad made me this. You can just have a clapper that is made of solid wood. It takes the moisture out of the garment, which gives it a nice beautiful seam. I accidentally dropped mine, and well, my dad's not here to fix it anymore, so I glued it. It worked. Still does the same trick. So we're going to press our seam. I just wanted to show you how good these little suckers are, especially with the boat on top with the point, which is really, really good. You can always press it open like that if you wanted. Like that. But the wood underneath is drawing out all the moisture, which is giving it its sharp ability to sit well. So you go over to the side like that. It's going to be a bit of a fight with that seam there. It's always good to have that seam nice and open, because then it does sit flatter. It's not got extra, doesn't have extra bulk sitting in that there. So I'm just going to lay it on flat on here for now and just give it a quick. I like to hold one end with the iron. Now mine's a commercial iron. Okay, steam is your best friend when it comes to sewing. Okay, so look how flat that sits. And if I wanted to ow, it's hot. If I wanted to, I could put that and give that extra bit of tuck down. Okay, flip it in that way, and now I'm going to go and understitch that. Get that all nice and neat out there again. And where's this one? This one's here. So although I'm turning it back in a little bit, I won't be turning the corners back out again. Right, so I'm going to go make sure I'm happy with that. 1 second. Got a few point turners. This is one of my favorites. It does have the tip missed, but it doesn't push through whereas that's narrower and it can go through stitching. So I prefer this one. It sort of takes it out a bit nicer. And in saying that, I'm going to do this one as well. How's that point? See, that point looks so much sharper than this one. Okay, so I'm going to understitch it all along the top there. Okay, and I'll come back. Oh my gosh, how good does this look? Here's the back with the understitch. You can barely see. You can see it because it is going through some of the, I want to call that taupe. I don't know where I got this fabric from. So the next thing we want to do is we want to stay stitch along here, because it's going to sit in between two facings. Make sure that your notches are together when you do it, because they will be important for when you place it onto your neckline. Okay, so just have a little quick pin, make sure your notches are together, pin there, make sure your other notch is together. Did I come? Yeah, there it is. Okay, and one's for funds in here. Then you've got the center notch that goes up with the seam. Line that up. And then the other one here. Beautiful. I'm going to go and stay stitch that, and then we're going to move right on to doing the bust darts. Stay stitch I put up to 3.5. Now the reason you want to stay stitch this together is now you're working with one piece of fabric, so when you line it up into the neckline you don't have to worry about both of these being matched up together when it goes and sits into your neckline. So now we set that aside over there, and we're going to get our front. Now don't worry about my pattern piece, it's a bit crazy because it has to deal with a super gorge bust, right? And I'm just going to put my pattern pieces aside because I don't like to lose those. Facings are there. Right, you don't need to hear me do this. First thing you want to do is you want to go around and you want to mark all your notches. So I'm a cutting girl, I'm not a tailor tack girl. Far too much to do than to do tailor tacks. Taught with tailor tacks, don't get me wrong, but eek, you know. And I'm just going down there. So yes, my pattern piece is very who's that on the slab? Very, what is that monster? Somebody will be yelling it out to me. Somebody that watches me a lot knows that I forget my words. So all the pins out. From here, I'll mark my bust dart. I have it right sides facing out. So I'm going to go to the center and mark my pin on both sides. I have also done a notch somewhere. Where's my notch? I'll find the notch. There it is. There. And so it is there. There should be another one about here. So these aren't my favorite bust darts. These aren't my favorite. I like them coming straight in rather than up, but that's what this is. So once I've done that, let's get rid of that pattern piece. I like to get the pattern piece out just in case, just the one I'm working on at the time, just in case there's something, you know, bidgy-giddy that I haven't looked up. I then get my ruler and I do a little line. Why not, right? And then we fold them together. couple of pins, and then I stick a pin above, not on it, but above my dot there. Okay, the other side.
Fun.
Always looks a bit crazy when you do a full bust adjustment. Okay, so now I'm going to go and sew my darts. If you have done your top stitching in a higher length, stitch length, make sure you change it back. Now I'm going to get my dart, back tack, always back tack. You don't want your clothes falling apart while you're wearing them. Follow the line, which is what we marked nicely. And these are to there. Go off and back on with your back tack and stop halfway down. Well, go back about 5 or 6. So you're a fair ways away and it's not stopping right at the tip. That should stop the bobble. The bobble that you sometimes get at your bottom, at your bust. Okay, and then we're going to go and press those down. I'll do the second one now. So we have done our fronts darts, we have done that. I went and jumped the gun to do my darts and my lining too, so if you want to do that, I just find that sometimes with the little fiddly things like darts, it's nice to just pick up and start with the piece without having to do the fiddle bit. Anyway, so I'm just putting my front linings aside. I've got my darts sitting in there. Whoops, that's the wrong side. My dart is sitting in there nicely for my girls to get tucked away. And then we are going to, your next step is to iron it. Now you iron it going down, okay, and there it is down, the flaps down, okay, and it makes the wall and matches up nicely. Makes my nice straight edge there. Nice. Then, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to take the back and we're going to sew the center back together. Now the back is, it's fantastic that it's in 2 pieces. Really good if you've got a short amount of fabric. And what I mean by that is that sometimes doing something on the fold can hinder placement, and it is super easy to, I'm just moving stuff out of the way, sorry. Super easy to attach them together. But if you have got something and you can't stick it, you got a back and you can't stick it on the fold, so you want to make a seam instead and you put it wherever, don't forget to add that seam allowance, okay? Otherwise you're going to find yourself a little bit tight, like a toiger. So here's my back piece, and you can see here I've taken a bit out for my sway, and I am going to do the notches and I am going to go and sew my centre backs together. Just a reminder, we have a 1 centimetre seam allowance, and if you are confused when you take your pattern piece off, mine's going to fall apart because I didn't sellotape up my sway back, there's your little notch there that tells you that's your seam allowance. Okay, that's 1 centimetre, or It's 1 centimetre. Our next step is to attach the shoulder at the shoulders, the front and back at the shoulders with the right sides together. Now remember that with the right sides together and the top at the top, you want to line up with your seam allowance difference sitting when they connect there. So it's just a little bit overlap there. You might just be able to see it there. Okay, because that is where it opens up and sits tidy, because your seam allowance is what makes it curve around. If you have line it up properly, if you line it up to be exactly the same, then it's actually going to have a divot in it or a jaggedness about it. So we just pin that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the sewing machine. We're going to sew our shoulders, and we are going to press them open. The next step after that is actually going down our side seams. So in order to not speed up the process because we're in a rush, but I like to do something that rolls on effect. So if I go and do the shoulders, then go and iron the shoulders, then come back and pin the sides, sew the sides, and then iron the sides, it's kind of like why, you know? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the side as well. Okay, and I'm going to attach the side seams and do that all in the same momentum. Okay.
Sewing together, we're sewing friends. Our machines at the ready, gotta love this fun.
Let's go and sew our shoulder seams and our side seams, press the seams open, and we'll move on to the next step. Our next step is, after we've opened all the seams up, oops, I did miss one. I will go and do that in a second. We want to get our collar. Remember our collar that we set aside a little while ago? I set aside a little while ago. Okay, we've got our collar. Our under collar must be facing the right side of the top, starting at the centre back. With the centre back of that, there's also the notch that we've got there. We want to start pinning that around the centre back. Okay, and we'll start pinning it around. I'm just going to go iron that shoulder seam, that one, and come back and pin.
Sewing together, we're sewing friends. Our machines at the ready, gotta love this fun.
Line it up with the front notch there. And my notch will be slightly out of place due to the fact I did the forward roll shoulder. So although it's still the same distance, it will should sit 2 centimeters, 1 centimeter forward or back of the side seam. Can't think right now. But yours, by rights, should sit beautifully on there. And see, handling the 3 pieces, that's a really good reason why we actually based our collar together. Okay, the notch in the front It's actually not where the collar goes, it's the center front of the jacket. So they should not reach there because there is actually a little lip. So what I do when I am putting on a collar, I like to put my two fronts together and make sure they match. Don't think they could be more matchy if they tried. Okay, there's my two, there. Okay, so now you're going to go and sew that on, and we'll do and work with our facings once we come back. Now that we have sorted the bodice, Queenie's just wearing it here, sorted out the body of it, we put the collar on there. Our next gambling up is our sleeve. And what we're going to do is we're going to do our couple of gathering stitches around the sleeve head. And that's the top of the sleeve, in case you were unsure. Don't forget to do your notches. We definitely need the notches. Now, as I said to you a little earlier, I've done a roll forward shoulder, tippy, scummy alterations. That's my technical terms, just in case you're confused. I have lost my notch. Black with a blue pen for your notch is really, sometimes you lose it. I'm going to hunt for that and then I'm going to snip it. Now, I don't know if you've actually seen me do a gathering before. I changed the bobbin thread. The bobbin thread is the one you actually like to pull. That gives easiest when you are doing a gathering stitch. So I don't change the whole lot. I just change the bobbin. And I find that if I change both the top and the bottom to the same colour, then I go, oh, which one's the bottom, which one's the top. Right, before I take my pattern piece off, I am going to mark all my notches. As I've said, I found the notch. Yay. And I'm also going to mark, there's another notch there. I'm also going to mark my dart, because there's a dart on the sleeve here. And what we're going to do is we're going to mark it out.
Our machines at the ready, gotta love this fun. La dee da, dee da. La dee da, dee da. Growing together, we're sewing friends. Our machines at the ready, gotta love this fun.
Right up to the machine to put those two lines through, the gathering lines through the head, and also sewing up the dart. I'm going to do the dart first because the black's already in there to do, and then I'm going to change my bobbin and do my gathering stitch. I'll drop my gathering stitch out, not to the full length. I actually drop it just a touch before it. It holds it better because although it's still a big stitch, it's smaller than the biggest and it doesn't fall back out, if that makes sense. This is what I've done so far. I've got the yellow sewn on the inside and the black. You can't see the black, so that's why you want to actually do another colour. And I have slightly just pulled that in a little bit just to show you. Now, I have a tendency to go from notches to notches and help it ease its way back in, because sometimes when you just do the cap, it's not enough to ease the sleeve. I find that is actually a great way to ease the sleeve in. So what we're going to do now is with right sides together, we're going to sew down our sleeve. By rights, your notch should match up with your dart. Okay, there's my notch there, there's my dart there, and they match up lovely. I did forget to tell you to iron your dart down in your sleeve. Okay, so if you haven't done that and you're about to pin your sleeves, pop back and iron that dart down. Iron that dart down. So I'm just pinning the last part of the sleeve, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to sew down there and iron open the seam allowance of the sleeve. Perfect. I'll be back in a second. We are going to now gather the heads of the sleeves. They are nice, and I've actually just slipped it on to see if it's a nice length for me. I think it's a brilliant length. I do like my sleeves a little longer. It is a little cooler here where we live. And we're going to now gather the sleeve up a little bit. I've done this one. This is one I prepared a little earlier. So I'll just turn it in the right way, and we will... This is how I attach the sleeve. Once I know where my back is, just back there, no. Once I know where my back is, which is this side here, I know that that sleeve is going to sit on that side. Ooh, it looks so cool. So what I do then is I get the underneath here, the both right sides out, and I take this and just flip it inside out. And I know that that goes on that sleeve. So I'm going to pin this and move it and make sure it fits in properly. Don't forget, I'm going to use my notch marks and go from there. Join me.
Sewing together, we're sewing friends on machines at the ready. Gotta love this fun. Machines at the ready, gotta love this fun. La dee da, dee da. La dee da, dee da. Machines at the ready, gotta love this fun.
So go ahead and attach your other sleeve and go and sew them on. I did forget to remind you that when you sewed your sleeve together, that you actually put your stitch length back to your favorite. Mine's 2.5. So I'm going to go and get the other sleeve. You notice that I took a lot of wrinkle. You might not, because I'm going to speed those parts up. I took out a lot of wrinkles, a lot of gathers out of the back to make it fit. I over gathered. So there's not much gathering that needs in this. So don't get overzealous, otherwise you just have to slide them back out. And yeah, I'll see you back here with your sleeves sewn in. Exciting. Then the shell is all done. Yes. Right, with the sleeves attached, I want you to iron the seam allowance into the sleeve head. So it goes back into the sleeve, okay, so it causes that nice filament there, which makes it sit nicer in the long run. Okay, the only time you shouldn't really do that is when you've got something that you can see through, like broderie anglaise. So that is where we're at. We've finished the shell. We've done that. We've got the facings to go and the linings. If you want to go ahead now and make up the lining the same as you've made up the shell here, bar the collar, because there is no collar. And we'll get back and we'll go to the next stage. Fantastic. Before you rush off and do the lining, don't forget that in the left sleeve, I want you to leave a gap about that big. Let's go on centimeters here, probably about 4, 5, 6 inches long. Okay, so 15 centimeters. We'll leave that gap. That is for turning after you've bagged your jacket. And it is actually, if you look in all your sleeves of your off the shelf, off the peg, ready to make jackets, you will find that there is an inside outside stitch up that also you do that in bags. Excuse me. Inside outside stitch up. There is a leaf behind me that's, and so you leave a hole in it. Okay, well, I've got my one here, and there is my hole inside my jacket, and that isn't anywhere near this thing I'm used to turning jackets inside that little kind of small amount of hole, because when I alter sleeves and alter the inside of a jacket, I always go inside that little hole, turn the whole thing inside out, so it's inside out. So I want you to go off and do that. I also would like you to take the time to do your facing. The facing, I've put my label on, so if you've got a label and you want it on, now is the time to do it, because before you attach it to your jacket, you really don't want to attach it to the jacket and then go, oh, and you forgot to put your label on. Now, I know that one drops below. I know it's going to attach within the 1 centimeter. When I sew my facing on, I'm going to just my lining on, sorry, I'm going to actually pin it up there so that my lining can go under, and that'll sit over the top of my lining and my jacket facing, and that way it looks like it was meant to be there, which it is. Okay, so I am currently in the throes of doing my buttons down the front of my jacket. I'm going to do, well, buttonholes, so I'm going to go and do that separately. Of course, if you know how to do that to your jacket if you'd like to do that. I like it, gives it a little vintage approach, and by this jacket, I really feel it's quite the vintage look, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'll go ahead and do that. Otherwise, your buttonholes can be done at the end of the session. I'll be using self-covering buttonholes. I'll be using self-covering buttons. Okay, that's it before it's covered, and I'll go through that if you want to know how to do that, so you can do that later. So lining now, I'm going to get and do my buttonholes, and then we will meet and group when we put to put our facings on our jackets. Now it is time to get our facings done. So you've got your two front facings here, and your back facing here as well. So hopefully you've gone and put your labels on it, and then you've got your right sides together, and you want to pin them together like so. And oops, I've still got the pattern piece. Let's remove that. That's the extra bit there, like so. Pin it. Of course, if you don't need to pin it, you can just walk to the machine and sew it on. And with the point, don't forget I mentioned before that you should have at least a 1 centimeter overlap where it joins, and that way when you open it up, it is straight and it won't be jagged. Okay, so we're going to go over, we're going to sew that together, and then we're going to put it onto the front of our jackets. Oh, hopefully you have come back. Now see that tucks down and it goes around. The same with the other side. It's a nice smooth. I can't see that. Right, like that. Okay, and it goes around smoothly. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to take our jackets, our shell, and we're going to add the facing to it. Now, I told you I was going to do different buttonholes. These are my buttonholes that I have done for my jacket. 1, 2, 3. That's my insides. Okay, so I'm now going to get my facing, and with the right sides facing, I'm going to attach it, notches included.
Sewing together, we're sewing friends. Our machines at the machines at the ready, gotta love this fun.
We are going to go and sew that on now. Don't forget, it is a 5mm, or let me tell you what that is, in 5mm seam allowance around the facings, and that is, sorry, obviously it's seriously not a metric girl, am I? 1/4 inch, okay, around the facing, all the way around. Let's go. I'll meet you back here. So what we have now is the facings attached. Now you have done the facings, you've attached them, and you understitched like we did on the collar. So all the way around, understitch, and make sure that the hem is also attached. Our next job is we're going to turn our jacket inside out. Yes, we are. And with our right sides together of our lining, now remember you left a little hole in the sleeve, we're going to pin our lining. You know, I think I put the hole in the wrong sleeve because, you know, back to front, inside out. Yeah, I'd have done that. Anyway, won't matter, it'll still come out of a hole. Right, so we're going to pin our lining all the way around to our facings and the hem of our bodice. So that's the center. I don't have my pins, so we're going to pin, okay?
Our machines at the ready, gotta love this fun.
So when you have pinned it around, have the bottom free, and remember the little tucks that said in the facing here. You're going to tuck that so it pins in at the bottom. There's a notch there. There's 2 notches, right? So here I've got it. Now, because I altered mine, I actually didn't lengthen enough on the front of my facing. So my tuck is minimal. But we're going to start sewing at the 1 centimetre from the bottom. We're going to go all the way around, go around the top, and we are going to go all down to the other side where the tuck will be, and we will sew up to 1 centimetre from the bottom with our tuck in there. Right, so I'm going to go and sew around there, all the way around the top, all the way around the top, and all down the other side. Don't forget the 1 centimetre at the bottom, you don't, and there's a notch there that tells you to stop sewing. Okay, I'll see you after we have done that. Once we've done that, just going to take out a pin. We're going to turn it all the way in the right way, and you'll see that it should sit down nicely. Just take it in the right way from the bottom. You see I still have a little tuck there, but a little than what it should have been, all the way down. Like that. Looking good. Now if you wanted to be specky or something like that, you could actually put piping in there as well, which looks really cool. I did that for a coat, a different coat a while back, obviously a different coat because I'm not wearing this one. Right, now I did, like I said, I pinned up my label And now my label can come down and see how it sits where the lining actually also is. That just stopped me going over the top of it. Okay, so our next step is sleeves. Now this is fun. This is a fun thing. So what we want to do is we want to put our lining inside our sleeves, or our sleeves inside our lining. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to talk to you while I do this because I just find that you can overthink this. I know that I've had a jacket totally inside out before, and I just couldn't get it back in the right way. My brain wasn't working with it. Now, in order to make sure that you're not twisting your sleeve when you are sewing it, I use my hands. I put my hands in. So there's my side seam, so it wants to go with that side seam there. Okay, so it's all untwisted, all sitting flat on the inside as well. Now, yeah, I do this for a living by changing and altering sleeves lengths. Not just that, obviously, but I just fold it down and fold it down. There is a notch there. That should also tell you where you are. I'm just going to make sure that I only have one notch there. I mustn't have snipped it hard enough on the other notch. Anyway, so you get your seam. This is how I do it. I get my seam. I fold it so it's right side in, and I fold it so it's right side in, and that makes it right sides together. Then I put my hand inside my jacket. This is the one with the split in it to help us turn it back in the other way. Right, and I'm going to swap my hands over, so I pinch it with my other hand. Okay, get pinched. I'm going to pull it out. Okay, and then so you've pulled it out the bottom, and there's your two bits. Do you want it together? Okay, and I take it, and I usually fold one of the pieces down, but this is going to be a little bit different. I'll turn it. Notch. And this is why I keep turning. More. Okay, see how the lining's sort of turned in now? So I can get it all the way around. Now I'll do this a bit better. I like to have my seams within my seams. If you've watched me before, I've taught you how to do how I do it. Sorry, I don't teach you how to do it. I've showed you how I do it to make sure my seams match up. Okay, and then one more. Okay, so that sleeve is ready to sew. So we want to do the same with the other sleeve. So we get the two sleeves together. Take that sleeve into this main sleeve. Where is this main sleeve? There it is. And I'll do that for you again. So I shake it around, make sure that I have got it nice and sitting flat, so naturally the seam has come to the bottom here, which means, although I do have to straighten it up a bit, it means that it is sitting way better. Right. And I want to... Oh, is that right, Willow? I'm just going to double check that that is straight. Because the seam merged away from that a lot. Okay. So we get our seam, fold it under, fold it under. Now I do that to get a head start on it. So then through the bottom of the jacket, where the lining's not attached, I put my hand up. Now my hand is between the lining and the outer shell of the jacket. I get up there and I pinch it and pull it out. So here I am at the end, and there's my two ends together. If you've just pulled them out, it's lining them up without twisting them, which could cause you to unpick a lot of things. The yellow's there from the buttonholes that I made. Put it up. My son is here and he might just walk in. My daughter knocks. Right, so there we've got it. Remember how I said that I fold the lining down? Just feel your way to start with, and you'll end up folding the lining down to help you sort out the two complete circles you're attaching together. Okay. The next step we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew our two sleeves. I have shown you how there is a vlog out that I've shown you how to shorten sleeves on a ready to wear. Okay, this is minutely just one part of it. If you're using quite a light fabric, it's always a good idea to throw a little bit in the hem allowance, a bit of interfacing to stiffen it up. Okay, see, so it looks very... So that's how it is now. We're going to go and sew our two sleeves, and then we're going to come back, turn it in the right way, and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do next. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out one of my sleeves and show you what it looks like on the other side. Okay, it automatically goes up and doesn't pop down due to the fact that the lining is shorter than the sleeve jacket, and that is another reason I think it is fantastic if you're going to start a lining to start with this one, because it does all the hard work in knowing when to move your lining upside down. So check that out. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put it back out again, because we're going to attach it. Now the hem allowance for the sleeve is, I want to say it's 5 centimeters. I want to find my piece of, here it is. That's not it, I want the blue one. Okay, so we've got the hem allowance here, which is that, where that, see how it cuts out and in there. So, and that is, should be 5 centimeters. Yep, 5 centimeters, 2 inches. Oh, the head of my sleeve came off. And so what we're going to do is we're going to fold up our sleeve, our 5 centimeters, and we're going to tack our sleeve hem to 5 centimeters up, so that there is no drooping of the lining when it comes down. Okay, so I'm going to mark that. Now I normally, I'll mark it and I'll show you what I normally do. I want my white pen. I have got stuff everywhere now. Here, I'll use this one. Right, so we've got the bottom of our sleeve, we'll go up 5 centimeters, which is 2 inches, which is there. I should have had a notch there, but I didn't. Normally I notch where it is. And then what I normally do is I fold it in half. So there's the flat seam. I fold it in half on top of itself. Okay, and then I get the sewing machine and I sew up that so it attaches the two. But I'm going to tack it and I'll be back it. Okay, tack both sleeves and we will then come back and regroup. Now it's time to attach the bottom lining with the bottom of the hem, and we're going to do most of it because we're going to turn it in inside out again to do some other work and then back in the other way. So far I'm really happy with it. Our sleeves are in, our sleeves are nice, okay, nice and straight. Always double check by putting your arm in again. And I'm going to say, I swear I stuck my hole in the wrong sleeve. So we're going to put the right sides together, which means basically tucking everything inside the jacket. Now if you remember, we left we sewed along the bottom there, and now we match up the bottom here. We left the 1 centimeter. We're going to match that up with the 1 centimeter there, and we're going to sew along the bottom. So now we're just pin along the bottom. Okay, we'll go and do that. Now we're going to sew along the bottom all the way to the center back. We're going to leave the center back and the side free, and then we're going to sew along there. Right, get to it. Once you have done the bottom with the gap, of course, there's my gap, turn it back in the right way and it should be sitting nicely along there and meeting up nicely at the ends where it tucks in. Okay, then what we're going to do, and this is the funsy part now, this is when I find out whether it was my left arm I did. You're going to turn it inside out via, okay, no. You're going to turn it out via the hole that you've got in the sleeve. Okay, here's the hole in the sleeve. There's my hole there. I'm now going to turn my jacket inside out via this hole. So I usually start with the collar because the collar is quite a hard thing to grab, as in like it's firm to grab. You can, if you feel you need to make the hole in your sleeve longer, you just keep pulling it and pulling it. I got there in the end. So now what I want to do is I want to finish up this one. Now to turn that in, I actually took my pins off me, and we want to, there's some notches there. We'll just pin here. We're going to go and sew that up, and then we're going to turn it back in the right way. After that, that's when we go and we're going to come back. We're going to mark up. We'll do it now. Just back what I just said. I'm going to come here. I'm going to mark up from the bottom here 5 centimeters, because that again is what the turning is for the jacket. And on every seam, we're going to do that in the seam allowance again. Okay, do it either way you want to do it. And 5 centimeters there. If you remember how I did it last time, just make sure I didn't accidentally hit that 0. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to sew up this hole. I'm then going to fold up my seam allowance. Okay, and it's just, remember, I grabbed it like this, folded it up, but this time I'm actually going to sew it with the sewing machine. I'm just going to shoot up there. Okay, I'll see you back, and then we're going to turn it back in through the sleeve. See you in a second. All right, so here we have all of the little fold ups, and I'm now going to turn it in the right way. So where's my sleeve with the hole in it? I think it's over this side. Ta-da! Yep. So I'm going to take that off and let's turn it back in. Right, like I said, I like to get my collar out first. Where is my collar? There it is. It's softer than earthing a bag, because bags have that, you know, really heavy lining things. Now I do not have I haven't sewn down my facing to my buttonholes. I'll show you that in a second. Here we go. Here we go. Super embarrassing if this doesn't work. There's one sleeve. And this should be, obviously the other sleeve up. All bagged out, all attached. The only thing I need to do now, which is different from you guys, is I've got to hand stitch my buttonholes, okay, and make my buttons. I got Mr. Christopher to buy me some more buttons, okay, and they are just so easy and cool to pop through, and they'll just sit there like that. Not silver, obviously. I'm going to go with the same colour as my jacket. And I've got 3 of those. There's my jacket. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to, I don't know if I'm going to hand stitch this tonight and show you guys tomorrow at the end and then do this. I think I will. But that's the jacket. I'll quickly put it on my queenie. I think I'll press it first. So how did you go? Did you finish up the hem and turn it in the right way? Oh, the only thing I have not done yet is I have not stitched in the hole in my sleeve. Now, all turned in the right way. I have, and you should have made your buttonholes. Okay, don't forget to look at your buttons and make sure that they are going to fit on your actual garment and they don't slide off the tip of your garment. Although you might have it might say to you on the pattern that they want a button of 18 millimeters, then you go and grab yourself a 22 millimeter. Make sure that when it's done up that it has room and doesn't sit off the edge of the, I'll actually get a button weight. This way you'll actually see the size. So if you have your button there, your buttonhole, and it comes to the edge there and it's falling off because your center front and your guide there on the actual pattern itself is marked for a smaller button, you kind of don't want that to sit off the side like that. It looks no so good. So my button was actually bigger, no so good. My button was actually bigger than what they suggested to have, and so I actually pulled mine back in again just a little bit. So if it sits right on the edge there of my buttonhole because it's pulling tight or something like that, instead of sitting gallantly in the center, it will just sit where the holes are. You just line it up there and it will sit with that much gap. Okay, if you put your buttonhole closer, it's going to sit like that, which is, I think, is a little bit untidy, and it isn't aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So what I had to do with mine, because I made welt buttonholes, okay, I had to make the holes on the back, which I did, and then I hand sewed all that around each single buttonhole. Thank goodness there's only 3. This is actually quite a tough fabric to go through when you're when you are using a lovely fine needle to do your hand sewing. And then I covered my buttons. I got Mr. Christopher to pick me up some more buttons, and I got and did my buttons. I wanted my buttons not to be a plain black, because obviously some of the swirl and twirl, you can make imagine if my button went right in the middle of that, it would just be a plain black button. So I found some of my scraps that had some good embroidery over the top of it and made my 3 buttons. So the other thing is I'm pretty fussy where my buttons go. I don't like, you can put them together and you can mark where your buttons go, and then they sit too high or sit too low, and they'll actually pull the opening off the jacket or the blouse or the whatever your buttons are. So I have been known to undo my buttons or unpick my buttons and redo them until I'm happy with where they're sitting. Do I like sewing on buttons? Not necessarily. Do I like my buttons sitting perfectly? Yes, that's what I prefer. So you gotta give, you know, if we want something, you got to work for it. So that I work for. But I don't like seeing, and I have seen them in shops where the buttons do not sit because they are just made in bulk style, and boom, 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 mark, 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 and boom, 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 that's where it goes. But that doesn't necessarily where it should sit. So I am a little bit fussy when it comes to sewing my buttons on. So I have, and you have, if you've made it beside me, our lovely little jacket, fully lined. It is a bagged jacket. Can't get to the inside except for my trusty right hand sleeve. Good on you, Stacey J. And of course I've got to go in now and sew up my little hole. Now I could and should by rights get fabric that, I've used black all the way through because there is no seams that you see on the actual lining itself. I should by rights get a matching one and sew that up, so I think I'll do that later, and change all my threads and that to make it matching. Not that it actually sits out and nobody should ever see it, but look at that, it sits beautifully on my sleeve. And that hole's there. Okay, and it is a case of putting it on. Now, I have been putting it on and off because that's what I do. Pull it down nicely, and it is to be done up the very vintage way. It gets really chilly willy in Wellington, so I have a tendency to keep my neck warm. So underneath this, I possibly would also have a scarf. Right, so that is, there's only one thing, maybe my sleeves are a tad too long, but excuse me, I do like them longer. I like to be able to grab them when they're down. It's a nice little boxy. I'm going to do a little walkie there and show you just what it looks like on. I have for, I'll show you what that looks like on, but I'll also be doing it for my my Wheel of Fate, which I will organize and do that now. So there you go. Don't forget, this is a lined jacket. You can also make it unlined. If you make it unlined, you would have to then protect the seams and finish them off. Me personally, if I was making it unlined, I would have Hong Kong seams all the way through. I think that would look classy and gorgeous, and just when you take it off, it looks nice and tidy on the inside. I would probably use something funky on my seams. I think Hong Kong seams like to have should have a boost of awesomeness, like I normally do with my lining. I usually do a nice pop lining on my stuff, but with this one I just kept it simple and kept it plain and matching my actual embroidery. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me in my sew along. It's been a journey, that it has, only because I've had to do it over a few days due to work commitments and child commitments. So I hope you had fun. There is also a sew along that is attached to the Style Arc website, so if you've purchased this, go and have a look through. It's obviously a very much more professional one than I do, because I'm just me, and I like to have fun when I do things. So there is another one that is on the Style Arc actual web page. Again, I'm not affiliated with Style Arc, still don't know why. No, actually, just kidding, because I've never asked them. And yeah, so I do love my little coat. So if you want to see what my Wheel of Fate actually attaches me to next time, jump aboard. But other than that, thanks for joining me for my sew along. Stay well, stay warm, stay dry, keep cool, keep on sewing. Hydrate and have no regrets. And if it's summertime where you are, or it's shiny and sun's bouncing off snow, don't forget, be skin safe this summer. Okay, safe face. See you later. Take care. Bye.
Subscribe, like, and share, just to let me know that you care.